What if the reason you wake up tired has almost nothing to do with how many hours you spent in bed? Imagine this. You turn off the light at 11:30, sleep until 7, and tell yourself you got more than 7 hours. Yet your eyes feel heavy, your thoughts move slowly, and by mid-morning you are already searching for a chair. Now imagine another person your age who sleeps for nearly the same number of hours, but wakes before the alarm, walks with steadier energy, remembers appointments more clearly, and does not feel desperate for an afternoon nap. The difference may not be the mattress, the pillow, the bedroom temperature, or some expensive supplement. It may be the moment the night began. After the age of 70, the body often changes its preferred sleep schedule. The first wave of evening sleepiness may arrive earlier, deep sleep may become more fragile, and late-night light or stimulation may have a stronger effect than it once did. Many older adults unknowingly fight that first wave of sleepiness. They stay awake because the evening news is not finished, because another television episode is starting, or because going to bed early feels like giving in to age. Then something surprising happens. The drowsiness disappears, the mind becomes alert again, and the person lies awake later, wondering why sleep has become so difficult. Tonight, we are going to uncover what may be happening, how to recognize your personal sleep window, and why the clock can sometimes matter almost as much as the total number of hours you sleep. Stay with me, because near the end I will share a simple 7-night test that can help you identify whether your current bedtime is working with your body or quietly working against it. Before we continue, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more older adults and families find practical health information presented without fear, exaggeration, or shame. In the comments, write your age and the time you usually turn off the light. Your answer may help someone else realize they are not alone. Let me begin with a story about a woman named Evelyn Carter. Evelyn was 76 years old, a retired elementary school librarian who had spent most of her life taking care of everyone else. She remembered her grandchildren's birthdays, mailed handwritten cards before every holiday, and kept a small notebook filled with grocery lists, church events, and medical appointments. People described her as organized, dependable, and sharp. But over the course of 1 year, Evelyn began to feel as if someone had slowly turned down the brightness inside her. She still got out of bed every morning, but she no longer felt awake. She would stand in the kitchen holding the coffee jar and forget whether she had already added coffee to the machine. She began leaving her reading glasses in strange places. Once, she found them inside the refrigerator beside a carton of milk. She laughed when she told her daughter, but the laugh did not hide the fear in her eyes. At 2 or 3 in the afternoon, Evelyn often fell asleep in her chair. The nap could last an hour, sometimes longer. Then evening arrived and she felt strangely alert. She watched television until nearly midnight because she believed going to bed at 9 would make her wake up at 4 in the morning. Her bedtime had been around 11:30 for decades, and she saw no reason to change it simply because she was older. She tried a new pillow, she bought darker curtains, she ordered an expensive sound machine. She drank herbal tea, then stopped because it made her wake up to use the bathroom. Nothing seemed to solve the problem. The turning point came during a family dinner. Evelyn's grandson asked her about a story she had told many times, a funny memory from her first year as a librarian. Evelyn opened her mouth, but the details would not come. She knew the memory was there, she could almost see it, but it felt locked behind a door. That night she sat alone in her living room and admitted something she had not wanted to say aloud. "I am frightened that I am losing myself." Her daughter encouraged her to speak with her healthcare professional. The evaluation did not reveal one simple, dramatic cause. Instead, the conversation uncovered a pattern. Evelyn became sleepy around 8:45 every evening. She often dozed in her chair for 10 or 15 minutes, woke herself up, turned on brighter lights, and pushed through the tiredness. By the time she went to bed at 11:30, she felt wired. Her sleep was broken, and her long afternoon naps made the following night even more difficult. Her clinician suggested a careful experiment. Not a miracle cure, not a sleeping pill, not a rigid rule that every person over 70 must follow. Evelyn would begin dimming the house around 8 o'clock, avoid dozing in the chair, start a quiet routine, and aimed to be in bed when her natural sleepiness became strongest, usually between 9 o'clock and 9:30. She would keep the same wake-up time each morning and shorten her daytime nap. The first 2 nights felt unusual. Evelyn said the house seemed too quiet, too early. On the 3rd night, she fell asleep before finishing a page of her book. By the end of the 2nd week, she was waking with less heaviness. After a month, she had resumed her morning walks. She still used her notebook, but she was no longer depending on it for every small detail. Most importantly, the fear that had followed her from room to room began to loosen its grip. Evelyn's story does not mean that an earlier bedtime fixes every case of fatigue or forgetfulness. Sleep problems can be connected to pain, breathing disorders, restless legs, depression, anxiety, medications, urinary symptoms, heart or lung conditions, and many other issues that deserve professional evaluation. But her story reveals something many people overlook. A sleep schedule can remain unchanged for decades, even while the body's internal clock quietly moves. To understand why, we need to talk about the circadian rhythm. Your circadian rhythm is an internal timing system that helps coordinate sleep, alertness, hormones, digestion, body temperature, and many other functions across roughly 24 hours. It responds strongly to light and darkness. Morning light tells the brain that the day has begun. Evening darkness helps the brain prepare for sleep. When you were younger, you may have been able to stay awake late, sleep in on weekends, and recover quickly. After 70, the system often becomes less flexible. Many older adults begin feeling sleepy earlier in the evening and waking earlier in the morning. This shift is not a personal failure. It is a common biological change. The problem begins when lifestyle and biology move in opposite directions. Your eyes become heavy at 9, but you decide it is too early. You turn on another lamp. You check messages, you watch an intense crime program, you eat a snack, you fall asleep for a few minutes in the recliner, and then wake up. Each of these actions can send the brain a mixed message. The body is trying to begin the night, while the environment is telling it to remain alert. This is why the first wave of sleepiness matters. Think of sleepiness as a door that opens for a limited time. When the door first asleep may feel natural. If you walk through it, sleep can begin with less struggle. If you ignore it, the door may partly close. You can still sleep later, but the process may become harder and the night may feel more fragmented. Some people call this a sleep window. It is not exactly the same for everyone. A person who wakes at 5:30 may have a different ideal bedtime from someone who wakes at 7:30. Medications, illness, activity, light exposure, and lifelong habits can also shift the window. That is why a single universal bedtime is too simplistic. Still, many adults over 70 notice their strongest natural drowsiness somewhere between about 8:30 and 10 o'clock in the evening. The most important clue is not the number on the clock, it is the pattern your body repeats. Do your eyelids become heavy at the same time most nights? Do you begin yawning? Does your interest in conversation or television fade? Do you feel calm and physically ready to stop? Those signals may be more useful than forcing yourself to follow the bedtime you had at age 45. Now let us look at another reason timing matters: deep sleep. Sleep is not one uniform state. The brain moves through different stages during the night. Some stages are lighter, others are deeper. Rapid eye movement sleep, often called REM sleep, is associated with vivid dreaming and important mental processes. Deep, non-REM sleep is linked with physical restoration and other essential functions. As people age, deep sleep often becomes less abundant and more easily interrupted. That means the early portion of the night can become especially valuable. For many people, deeper sleep is concentrated more heavily in the first part of the sleep period. If you repeatedly delay bedtime past your natural window, you may not simply move the entire night forward in a perfect block. The result can be lighter, less satisfying sleep. This helps explain a frustrating experience. Two people can both spend 8 hours in bed but feel completely different the next morning. One person enters sleep when the body is ready, maintains a consistent schedule, and spends less time awake during the night. The other pushes through drowsiness, falls asleep late, wakes repeatedly, and remains in bed longer, trying to compensate. The clock may record 8 hours for both, but the experience is not equal. Consistency is another piece of the puzzle. The brain likes predictable signals. When bedtime changes dramatically from night to night, the internal clock has difficulty preparing. One evening you go to bed at 9:15. The next night you stay awake until midnight. On the weekend you sleep until 9 o'clock in the morning. Then you try to return to an early schedule. This repeated shifting can feel like a small form of jet lag without ever leaving home. A consistent wake-up time is often especially powerful. Morning wake time anchors the day. It influences when you receive light, when you eat, when you move, and when sleep pressure begins building again. If your schedule is irregular, begin by making your morning more predictable. Get up at roughly the same time, open the curtains, and expose yourself to safe morning light. Now I want to tell you about a second person, a man named George Miller. George was 73, a retired mechanic who believed sleep advice was mostly common sense dressed up in complicated words. He had worked early shifts for 40 years and considered himself disciplined. But after retirement, his schedule drifted. He started watching late sports broadcasts and sleeping later in the morning. Some nights he went to bed at 10, other nights it was after 1. George complained that his heart seemed to pound when he woke suddenly during the night. He also felt irritable in the morning. Small problems bothered him. A misplaced tool could ruin his mood. A slow cashier made him impatient. He told his wife, "I don't know why everything gets under my skin now." His doctor evaluated the symptoms and discussed the need to rule out medical causes. George also began tracking his sleep. What surprised him was that his worst mornings followed his latest, most irregular nights. His total time in bed was sometimes longer, but he felt worse. George chose a target wake time of 6:30 each morning. He stopped sleeping until 9 after a bad night. He took a short walk outside after breakfast. He moved coffee earlier in the day. At 8:45 in the evening, he dimmed the lights and stopped watching emotionally intense programs. He aimed to sleep between 9:30 and 10. The change was not immediate. On some nights he still woke, but after several weeks the pattern became steadier. His wife noticed he was calmer in the morning. George said the biggest difference was not that he slept perfectly. It was that sleep no longer felt like a nightly battle. That distinction matters. Healthy sleep does not mean never waking up. Brief awakenings can occur at any age, and they often become more noticeable later in life. The goal is not to force 8 unbroken hours. The goal is to create conditions that make it easier to return to sleep and to wake with enough restoration for the day ahead. Now let us discuss the possible benefits of a schedule that fits your body. First, better daytime alertness. When sleep begins at a biologically suitable time, many people find that morning grogginess improves. They may feel more willing to move, prepare breakfast, talk with family, or complete simple tasks. Better alertness can also support safety. A person who is less drowsy may be more attentive when walking, driving, cooking, or taking medication. Second, clearer thinking. Sleep supports attention, learning, and memory. During the night, the brain processes information gathered during the day. Poor or fragmented sleep can make ordinary forgetfulness feel much worse. Names disappear. Instructions become harder to follow. Decisions take longer. This does not mean that every memory problem is caused by sleep. New or worsening confusion, major personality changes, getting lost, difficulty managing finances, or trouble performing familiar tasks should be discussed with a healthcare professional. But improving sleep can remove one burden that makes thinking harder. Third, emotional steadiness. After a poor night, the brain is more reactive. Worry feels louder. Patience becomes thinner. A small disappointment can feel enormous. Older adults sometimes blame themselves for becoming grumpy when exhaustion is quietly magnifying every emotion. Restorative sleep does not erase grief, loneliness, stress, or illness, but it can provide a stronger foundation for coping. People often describe feeling less overwhelmed and more interested in social contact when they are sleeping on a steadier schedule. Fourth, support for cardiovascular health. During healthy sleep, heart rate and blood pressure usually change as part of the body's nightly rhythm. Chronic sleep disruption has been associated with health concerns, although the relationship is complex and individual. A consistent sleep routine should be viewed as one supportive habit, alongside medical care, physical activity, nutrition, and prescribed treatment, not as a replacement for any of them. Fifth, support for blood sugar regulation. Sleep and metabolism influence each other. Poor sleep can affect appetite, stress hormones, and the way the body handles glucose. For a person with diabetes or pre-diabetes, a better routine may support the broader treatment plan. It does not replace medication, monitoring, exercise, or dietary guidance. Now, here is an important warning. Going to bed earlier is not automatically better. If you get into bed at 7 because you are tired but remain awake for hours, the bed can become associated with frustration. Spending excessive time in bed may also weaken sleep pressure. The goal is not to chase the earliest possible bedtime. The goal is to identify the time when you are genuinely sleepy and can reasonably expect to sleep. There is also a difference between sleepiness and fatigue. Sleepiness means you could easily doze off. Your eyelids feel heavy, you yawn, your head may nod. Fatigue is a lack of energy, but you may not be able to sleep. You can feel exhausted yet mentally alert. Pain, anemia, thyroid problems, infection, heart or lung disease, medication effects, depression, and many other conditions can cause fatigue. If you are tired all day despite a reasonable sleep opportunity, do not assume the clock is the only answer. Seek professional guidance. Now let us build a practical evening routine. Step 1. Decide on a stable morning. Choose a wake time that fits your responsibilities and health needs. Try to keep it within the same 30 to 60-minute range most days. After waking, sit up slowly, especially if you experience dizziness. Open the curtains, get safe light exposure. Eat and take medications according to your care plan. Step 2. Protect the afternoon. A long or late nap can steal sleep from the night. Some people do well without naps. Others benefit from a short nap earlier in the afternoon. If you regularly sleep for 2 hours at 5 in the evening, it will be difficult to feel naturally ready for bed at 9. A practical experiment is to keep naps brief and earlier, then observe whether nighttime sleep improves. People with specific medical conditions or unusual sleep schedules should discuss this with a clinician. Step 3. Create a landing zone before bed. An airplane does not drop from the sky onto the runway. It descends gradually. Your evening should work the same way. About an hour before your target bedtime, reduce stimulation, lower the lights, finish demanding conversations. Put away paperwork that creates worry. Avoid dramatic news if it leaves your mind racing. Step 4. Watch caffeine. Caffeine can remain active much longer than people expect. Coffee is not the only source. Tea, cola, energy drinks, chocolate, and some medications may contain caffeine. A person may insist, "Coffee never keeps me awake," while still experiencing lighter sleep or more nighttime awakenings. Consider moving caffeine earlier and observe the effect. Do not make abrupt changes if you consume large amounts and are concerned about headaches or other symptoms. Reduce gradually or ask for guidance. Step 5. Reconsider alcohol. Alcohol may make someone feel sleepy at first, but it can disrupt sleep later in the night. It may increase awakenings, worsen snoring or breathing problems, and lead to more bathroom trips. Mixing alcohol with sleep medicines or certain other drugs can be dangerous. Step 6. Finish heavy meals earlier. A large meal close to bedtime can contribute to discomfort or reflux. Try to allow time for digestion. If you need a small evening snack because of a medical plan, choose something appropriate for your needs and follow professional advice, especially if you have diabetes. Step 7. Use light carefully. Bright light in the evening can delay the body's preparation for sleep. Dim overhead lights and use softer lamps. Screens can be stimulating because of both light and content. A frightening news story, argument, or fast-moving video can keep the brain alert even after the device is turned off. You do not have to live in darkness. The goal is to make the evening look and feel different from midday. Step 8. Choose a repeated calming sequence. Your routine could be simple. Wash your face, brush your teeth, change into comfortable sleepwear, write tomorrow's tasks on paper, read for 10 minutes, and turn off the light. Repetition teaches the brain what comes next. Avoid turning the routine into a complicated performance. If sleep requires 20 perfect steps, one disruption can create anxiety. Keep it gentle and realistic. Step 9. Make the bedroom support sleep. A comfortable temperature, low noise, and minimal light help many people. Keep a safe path to the bathroom. Use night lighting that reduces fall risk without flooding the room with brightness. Place glasses, a phone, or a call device within reach if needed. The bedroom should feel safe, not stressful. Step 10. Know what to do when sleep does not come. Lying in bed for a long time while watching the clock can increase frustration. If you are fully awake and becoming upset, some sleep specialists recommend getting out of bed, sitting in a safe, dim area, and doing something quiet until sleepiness returns. Avoid bright screens and stimulating activities. Anyone with mobility or fall concerns should prioritize safety and discuss the best approach with a healthcare professional. Now let us talk about the 7-night sleep window test. This is not a diagnosis. It is a simple observation exercise. For 7 nights, keep your morning wake time as consistent as possible. During the evening, notice the first clear signs of sleepiness. Write down the time. Record when you went to bed, approximately how long it took to fall asleep, how often you remember waking, and how you felt the next morning. Do not chase perfection. You are looking for a pattern. If you repeatedly become sleepy at 9 but stay awake until 11 and then struggle, try beginning your bedtime routine before 9. Move gradually. 15 to 30 minutes earlier may be enough. If you go to bed early but remain awake for a long time, your bedtime may be too early, or another issue may be interfering. At the end of 7 nights, ask 4 questions. When did natural sleepiness usually begin? Which bedtime produced the easiest sleep onset? Which nights led to the best morning energy? What habits appeared before the worst nights? The answer may be more useful than copying someone else's exact bedtime. Now I want to share the story of a third person, Robert Hayes, age 81. Robert lived alone after his wife died. Evening was the hardest part of the day. He kept the television on until 1 or 2 in the morning because silence made the house feel empty. He often fell asleep with the television playing, woke confused, and moved to bed near dawn. His daughter believed he simply needed discipline. Robert believed he had become a hopeless sleeper. Both were missing the emotional reason behind the schedule. A social worker helped Robert build a different evening. He called a friend after dinner, joined an early online veterans group twice a week, and listened to familiar radio programs rather than leaving dramatic television on all night. He placed a photograph of his wife beside the chair and wrote one memory about her each evening. At 10, he turned off the main lights and prepared for bed. Robert's sleep did not become perfect, and his grief did not disappear. But he stopped treating bedtime as a confrontation with loneliness. The routine gave the evening structure and meaning. Within weeks, he was sleeping longer stretches and feeling less confused in the morning. His story teaches an important lesson. Sleep is not controlled only by hormones and clocks. Emotions matter. Loneliness, grief, fear, caregiving stress, and financial worry can keep the nervous system alert. A bedtime routine may help, but emotional support may also be necessary. Talk with family, a counselor, faith leader, support group, or qualified professional. There is no shame in needing help when the house becomes quiet. Now let us identify the signs that require medical attention. Loud snoring, choking, gasping, or pauses in breathing may suggest sleep apnea. Morning headaches, severe daytime sleepiness, or falling asleep unintentionally can also be warning signs. Sleep apnea is not simply an annoyance, it deserves evaluation. An uncontrollable urge to move the legs, especially at night, may point to restless leg syndrome or another issue. Acting out dreams, shouting, punching, or falling from bed should also be discussed with a clinician. Frequent nighttime urination may relate to fluid timing, prostate or bladder issues, diabetes, medications, sleep apnea, or other conditions. Do not simply stop drinking all fluids without advice because dehydration can create additional problems. Pain, breathing difficulty, chest discomfort, severe anxiety, depression, medication side effects, and cognitive changes can all interfere with sleep. A sudden major change in sleep should not automatically be blamed on age. Review your medication list with a doctor or pharmacist. Some drugs can cause alertness, drowsiness, vivid dreams, dry mouth, or more frequent urination. Do not stop prescription medication on your own. Be especially careful with over-the-counter sleep products. Some can cause confusion, constipation, urinary retention, dizziness, or falls in older adults. Available without a prescription does not mean risk-free. Now let us correct 5 common sleep myths. Myth 1. Older adults need almost no sleep. Sleep needs vary, but aging does not eliminate the need for restoration. Many older adults still need around 7 to 8 hours, though individual needs differ. The quality and timing of sleep may change. Myth 2. Waking during the night means the night is ruined. Not necessarily. A brief awakening can be normal. The important question is whether you can return to sleep and function reasonably the next day. Myth 3. Staying in bed longer always creates more sleep. Sometimes it creates more wakefulness and frustration. Time in bed and time asleep are not identical. Myth 4. A sleeping pill is the only answer. Medication may be appropriate in some situations, but sleep problems often require a broader evaluation. Behavioral treatment, schedule changes, treatment of breathing disorders, pain management, and medication review may be more important. Myth 5. Poor sleep is simply the price of old age. Sleep often changes with age, but persistent exhaustion, severe insomnia, or dangerous daytime drowsiness should not be dismissed. Now imagine your evening tonight. At 8:30, your eyes become heavy. Instead of fighting the feeling, you lower the lights. You turn off the television. You place tomorrow's concerns on a sheet of paper rather than carrying them into bed. You wash, change, and sit quietly with a book. At 9:15, the room is calm. You are not demanding sleep. You are allowing it. You wake once during the night, use the bathroom safely, and return to bed without checking the clock repeatedly. Morning arrives. You may not feel 20 years younger, but your mind is less foggy. Your body feels more willing to begin the day. That is the realistic promise of a better routine. Not perfection, not immortality, not a magical cure. A better opportunity for the body to do what it is designed to do. Evelyn did not become a different person. She became more available to her own life. She returned to the library once a week as a volunteer. She read stories to children and remembered the voices she used for each character. One afternoon, her grandson asked whether she had ever found those glasses she lost. Evelyn smiled and said, "Yes, they were beside the milk, and we are never speaking of it again." They both laughed. The memory that once frightened her became a family joke, not because every concern vanished, but because she had taken action. She stopped assuming decline was inevitable. She asked questions. She accepted help. She changed one repeated habit. That is the message I hope you remember. Your bedtime is not a test of strength. Staying awake later does not prove that you are younger. Going to bed earlier does not mean your life is shrinking. Sleep is not time stolen from living. Rest is one of the things that allows you to participate in life with greater attention, patience, balance, and energy. The best bedtime after 70 is not one rigid number printed on a clock. For many people, a window around 9 to 10 may fit their changing rhythm, but your own wake time, health, medications, and natural signals matter. The goal is to notice when your body repeatedly offers sleep and to stop treating that signal like an inconvenience. Tonight, ask yourself 3 questions. When do I first become genuinely sleepy? What do I usually do when that feeling arrives? How do I feel the next morning when I respect it compared with when I ignore it? Those questions can reveal more than another gadget, another pillow, or another bottle on the bedside table. Start gently. Keep a stable morning. Move caffeine earlier. Shorten late naps. Dim the evening. Create a small routine. Shift bedtime in 15-minute steps rather than forcing a dramatic change. Track what happens for 1 week. And remember, if sleep problems are severe, sudden, or accompanied by breathing pauses, chest pain, confusion, falls, major mood changes, or overwhelming daytime sleepiness, contact a qualified healthcare professional. Before you leave, write one word in the comments: tonight. Let it mean that tonight you will pay attention to the first honest signal your body gives you. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more practical information designed to support healthy aging, independence, and confidence. Share this video with a parent, grandparent, neighbor, or friend who keeps saying, "I sleep for 8 hours, but I never feel rested." Sometimes the life-changing discovery is not that the body has stopped working. Sometimes it is that the body changed its schedule and has been waiting patiently for us to notice. Thank you for spending this time with me. I wish you a calm evening, a safe night, and a morning that feels clearer than the one before. This video is for general education only. It does not replace personalized medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment.